Hi, everyone. Welcome. We've got about a minute before we're going to start our webinar presentation today, but I wanted to come in and say hi and just remind everybody that during our webinar today that we are going to be recording so that we can send this out to everyone in the future. And that during our presentation today, should you guys have questions, you'll notice that on the bottom of your Zoom toolbar, we've got a Q&A for you to come in and submit your questions. And we do have Jennifer, who's going to be taking a little bit of time to feed those questions to us during our conversation. And then in our Go presentation at the end, we'll have some open question time there in a Q&A section as well. So we look forward to hearing of you. This is meant to be participatory. So please submit your questions. Okay. Well, welcome everybody. We want to thank you for taking a little bit of your day to join us for our webinar today on how effective project management can boost your construction bidding success. My name is Tracy Van Dalsum, and I'm the Vice President of Client Experience here at Red Team Software. And joining me today is Michael Wright, our founder and Chief Strategy Officer here at Red Team, and Jennifer Leacock, who is our product manager, and she's going to be talking to us a little bit later and showing us the Red Team Go software platform following Michael and I's conversation with you today. So as we get ready to start our conversation today, we wanted to talk to you a little bit about who we are and what we do and why we were created. And so I'm going to let Michael speak to how Red Team came about. He has experience as a general contractor prior to his coming into construction technology, where Red Team was birthed out of a construction business. And so I want him to share a little bit about our legacy as a construction company and how and why we decided to build our software platform. So Michael, would you share with us just a little bit about who we are and where we come from?
Of course, Tracy, that was amazing. I was thinking maybe you should just do the whole thing. But anyway, yeah, so I'm Michael Wright. I am the original founder and the Chief Strategy Officer at Red Team, but probably more important to the people who are visiting and spending part of their day with us for this webinar is the fact that I am a commercial general contractor, and I've been a commercial GC for nearly 30 years now. And so I've definitely walked the walk, and I've got that hands-on experience that really does make a difference for us as an organization, for our team. Tracy didn't mention it in her introduction of herself, but Tracy actually is a commercial general contractor as well. As you can see, she has less gray hair than I do, so maybe not as many years, but definitely hands-on experience. And for us, that's really important. It's been really important for us to build our team with people that have commercial construction experience, that real life, day-to-day experience of running a commercial construction company. And sure, it's great to have people that understand the technical aspects and the unique workflows for commercial construction. But perhaps more than that, it's having people on our team that really have a love for the business, that have a real sense of appreciation and empathy for the people that do this very difficult work in the world. You know, commercial construction is a very tough business. And the reason Red Team exists is to make it a little bit easier, to deliver predictable outcomes for your clients and really have a better quality of life on a day-to-day basis. And so that's really why Red Team exists. So today what we're doing is something a little bit different than we've done in prior webinars. We're actually going to spend some time just in a conversation. And Tracy and I talk about construction all the time, and it just occurred to us that, you know, maybe this might be somewhat interesting. I hope it's interesting. You have our commitment and our promise to do everything we can to make sure that this is a valuable 35, 40 minutes of your day. So Tracy and I are just going to kick off a conversation so that our webinar is a little bit less focused on features and functions, although we will have some of that. But really more focus on the benefits of utilizing this technology and using technology to really run your business in a more efficient way, and ultimately to be more successful in bidding, more successful in executing your contracts for your clients. So with that, Tracy, I guess we're on to our discussion phase.
Yeah, well, and so one of the things that we did, it was important to us, I think Red Team in general was birthed out of construction companies. Both the Flex platform and the Go platform were both built to solve real needs that we were experiencing in our construction companies, and bumping into those things over and over again and going, gosh, there's got to be a standardized process that we can do that will help us overcome some of the challenges that we're experiencing in our own lives and running our construction businesses. And so, Michael, I wanted to have us talk just a little bit about, where were some of those breaking points for us that led us to, we've got to start developing a software to solve some of these problems. And I know for us, I think, we're talking about bidding today. And one of the biggest challenges with the bidding process is we know ultimately, we could be 6 months into a project, but, our project was won or lost based on how the bidding process went in the beginning. If we included everything in our bid, if we left something out and we didn't exclude it, and now we're on the hook for it and we've got to pay for it out of pocket. And so I wanted to see, Mike, if you would tell us a little bit about what are some stories that you have about the breakdown in process that led us to build the software solutions that we have today to help meet those needs.
Yeah, Tracy, I totally relate to what you're talking about. What specifically when you're looking at the success of any given project. For us and my commercial construction business, it was at the point at where we got to about $10 million in annual revenue a year. And we used to just run everything on spreadsheets and memory and, promises to put files and documents in the right place on our server. Once we hit $10 million a year, I can tell you it felt like the wheels had come off, and we knew something had to change. And that's what really inspired us to start writing the first software that ultimately became the platform. One of our first applications was just keeping track of photos from job sites. And that was really transformational. I can tell you, in the old days, I don't know if most people may not, our younger folks on this call won't remember this, but we used to carry around these digital cameras. It was not on our phones, even if we had phones way back in the early days. But those cameras would pop out a floppy disk or something, and it would get stored on a server somewhere. I can tell you, not one time was I ever able to find a photo from a job site from one of those cameras. And we all took those pictures, but it was really impossible to find anything. So the first application we built was just to keep track of the photos so that we knew some basic things like, who took the photo, what job it was related to, and perhaps a brief description of what it was. And that was really impactful for our business, and it inspired us to continue writing software. It also helped us really focus on figuring out how to create repeatable processes and repeatable workflows. At the end of the day, your business is really just a collection of workflows. And in the early days, of course, it's very tempting to focus on hiring, gunslingers, people that can solve any problem at any time. And you're just relying on people to fight fires day in and day out. But ultimately, what we realized is we can't scale our business that way. And so we started really focusing on creating consistent workflows so that whoever is in the process, everything is being done the same way. And once we started looking at the business like that, that's what enabled us to scale up, 10 to 20 to 50 to 100 million, past $100 million. And that was really just transformational for us, just really being very mercenary about figuring out what are the core workflows that we have to execute day in and day out. And I know that's something that you talk about all the time, Tracy. You talk about contractors that are oftentimes looking at their first platform. And so they're figuring out, well, where do I start? How do I get started in transforming from all manual or undocumented processes to actually working inside of a system?
Right. And I think that's what we do really well is we're not reinventing any wheels here. We're taking our processes that we normally are doing by hand, and we're just doing them in an electronic format, and we're letting technology and automation fill in the information gaps for us so that we're not spending our time on those things. And what that does, as you're talking about the repeatable processes, is it covers us. You know, if we've got a repeatable process where we're putting all of our documentation and everything that we know in between our ears into the software, it makes it very easy. You know, as our companies grow, we have a lot of people turnover, and we may have a project manager that quits in the middle of a job and gets a new opportunity and moves on. And it makes it very easy for somebody to come in and step into that gap and pick right up where that project manager left off, because everything is built in to the software platform, and they can read through the documentation, get up to speed, and then carry on. And so that's one of the great things about having a process and having one that is repeatable and built in, and everything the same every single time. It's a gigantic benefit. And so it improves consistency and quality and efficiency. And so that's what we've tried to do in our bidding and our estimating module within the platform, is create those steps that make it repeatable and consistent every single time. And so that was really important to us, and in solving for where the projects are won or lost, it's in the bidding status. And so we spent a lot of time on that, and in building our documentation. You know, like we know we get the drawings and the specifications, and we get all the contract documentation, and we're reviewing that, and we're building a scope of work. Michael, what do you think, in your experience, as we talk about building our projects and using these tools and creating repeatable processes, what are some of the keys to success, primarily in the bidding process, as we're talking about bidding here, that help us to prepare a healthy bid? What are some of the keys to success there for us?
Well, number one, and certainly this is something we want to be a repeated process, is really understanding the contract. I had a conversation with I've had conversations with project managers where they would say things like, I wish I had a cheat sheet for the contract. And I would get very frustrated by those statements, because at the end of the day, the project team is responsible for executing the contract. That's the roadmap for being successful. And it also explains exactly what is expected of us. This is why we were hired to do this work. And the expectation is that we're going to do the work in accordance with the contract. And so there really is no shortcut to reading and understanding the contract. And so that's something that, for us, we always insisted upon that. The other great reason for reading the contract is it tells you how to be successful. It tells you what it is that the expectations are from your client. And once you start operating based on the contract, I would say what the contract will set you free. Just follow the process in the contract, and everybody's going to be much happier as a result. Now the contract changes, and we know that. Typically, you've got change orders that are occurring really almost from the very beginning of the job. And that's not an interruption. That is actually our job. Our job is to manage that change process. It's one of the core things that our clients rely on us to do. They expect us to manage that change process and make sure that it is orderly and that it fully conforms to the contract documents. And those are the things that, when you get these workflows and these processes onto a platform, quite honestly, life is just much easier for everybody, because you're not operating on memory, and the risk of trying to put too much emphasis on remembering what your promises are is a slippery slope. Because as you and I have spoken about many times, contracts don't have to be written. Every court in the land will enforce oral verbal contracts. And so it's very risky to leave things to the end. And so, part of the process of learning the basic blocking and tackling once you get onto a platform is really being consistent about how you do things, including, how does your organization respond to a directive or an unforeseen condition? And making sure that this is consistent and repeatable is critical for long-term success. And I know your team has really focused on the change management process.
Yeah. Well, and even backing up, even before we get to the change process, is building of the scope of work in general. We get the contract documents, we read everyone, please read the contract documents and build the scope of work according to what's in your contract documentation. bid per plans and specifications is a bid note that I put on every single cost code. It's what we're doing. It's what we're executing against those contract documents. And that's a key right there, in making sure that we're CYA-ing ourselves, right? And that we're covered, because we're building the scope of work according to the contract documents. We're including everything according to plans and specifications, and we're excluding anything that's not in there to make sure that we're covered that way as well. And then when we get to the change process, we know, because we've read the scope, we built the scope according to the contract documents. We know the change, and then we build the scope of work into the change management process as well. And so, those are some of the tools that are never going to let you down. If you're diligent about putting them in, they automatically transfer to the contract, whether we're putting it in at the bidding stage and it becomes part of our initial contract and the scope of work that auto populates into your owner contract, or the scope of work from a change order also populates into the contract. And so it becomes, upon accepting of the change order, and then it gets pulled into our bill and we bill for it. And so it's a great process. It's probably one of the things that's saved us. On the other side, we hear horror stories also. I mean, how many of you guys have had an experience where we accidentally left something out of the bid? We included it in the scope of work, and then something happened and we didn't. I had a story from one of my favorite GCs that we work with regularly, who called me in a panic one time, and he was like, "Trace, we left the elevator out of the project." And I was like, "You did what?" We left the elevator out of the project. And so, you've got to make sure that we've got some built-in things that help to cover that as well in the building of the worksheet, and highlighting anything that's got a $0 in it, and some of those things that help you with the repeatable processes and utilizing those processes. But the scope of work is important. If we would have excluded the elevator, we would have been good. So just having that be a part of the process that is repeatable, and we make sure, if we're doing things the same way, we don't let things like that fall through the cracks. And so that's a piece of the puzzle that I think we try to solve for and do very well.
I've said a few times that if there's such thing as reincarnation, I'll come back as an elevator subcontractor, because boy, do they exercise a lot of impact on a job site. Anyway, I want to jump to something a little bit different and talk about, we mentioned the, in the early days when you're getting your business started and off the ground, there's a tendency to look for and hire the gunslingers and the firefighters and people that kind of solve the problems day in and day out, whatever those problems are. Sometimes it's challenging to get those folks onto a platform, because they have very distinctive ways that they've developed, operant practices that work for them, that may be a little bit different from what the company wants. And so maybe you could talk a little bit about, how to manage through that onboarding process when you've got people that have very strong opinions and ideas about how to do things, and we're wanting them to adopt standard and repeatable processes that may be a little bit different than what they've done in the past.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, and I think that's always a challenge too, when we're onboarding new companies that are maybe coming from very manual processes to now we're doing some things in an electronic way. And so, I've had lots of instances for me personally when we first started to adopt the software as a construction company. We were a company that had been around for 20 years at the time, and we were going from manual methods of Microsoft Word and Excel, our magic Excel spreadsheet, and we were adopting the platform and moving into a new era. And now all of a sudden I started requiring my site superintendent, who had been a site superintendent for the last 30 years and had always done things a specific way, to now I'm requiring that he fill out a daily log through his mobile app. And instead of handing me a stack of receipts at the end of every month for me to enter into the system as expenses, I was going to have him submit those to me through the mobile app. And I'm no longer accepting your dip stained wad of receipts at the end of the month, and so it is a change to processes that we're asking not only our team to do, but our subcontractors and our vendors to do as well, with a new billing process and billing through the platform, because that streamlines our internal processes as well. And so we hit plenty of roadblocks in implementing new clients that hit those very real struggles. I know what they are. I feel them in my gut because I've experienced them myself. And so but it does make a difference, you know, if we can show them the value that them adopting technology has to our company in the efficiency that it brings. You know, if you fill out your time card and your daily log through the mobile app, I have to literally sit down, read it, and click an approve button, and it's approved and it's documented, and now it's stored for good for the project. And it's solid. If I ever have a court battle that I have to go into, I've got the daily log documentation. I've got my photos that are by the day stored in my document files, and it becomes something that now I've got the date stamped proof that I can go to court with and win. And so you have to paint a picture of the value that making these changes provides for your company. It's very important that they understand, hey, we're not doing this just to make your life difficult and to change something that you've been doing a particular way just because we want to. It's because we have to. If we're going to grow as a company, we've got to gain some efficiencies, and we've got to save some hours that we're currently doing spinning our wheels in, drowning in the documentation and the paperwork that we have in the office every day, when really we need to be spending our time going up and drumming up new business so that I can keep you working. You know, there are some great benefits to adopting the software. And I think painting those benefits for your team as you are embarking on a new technology journey, that you have to be able to speak to the value. And I think we bump into that a lot with new clients, and we have to have whole team buy-in. You know, we have a saying that you may not have to agree, but you have to get on board, even if you don't agree, and come along, have my back here, because this is what's going to allow the company to grow into the future, is streamlining our processes, having things be repeatable, being able to come in and sit down and not have to fuss with the paperwork, but it's right here. If I just spend the same amount of time I'm going to spend putting it into the software as I would if I'm filling out a reimbursement form with my hand, or I'm filling it into an Excel spreadsheet and I'm going to come turn it into the office. Well, if I would just pull out my mobile app or pull out my laptop and do it in the system, it's the same motion, it's the same amount of time, but the amount of time that it saves for the accounting department and the project managers to get in and do their part of the process, we're going to give them 30% of their day back. Who doesn't want 30% of their day back? So change management is hard. I don't want to minimize that, because it is difficult. But I think one of the rewarding things is when the light bulbs go off and they start to see the value, because now, okay, I'm going to start with one project. You know, if we start with one project and, okay, we're going to do it this way, I want you to try it this way for this project. You know, you've got 3 other projects that are going, try it on this one, and let's see the difference that this makes. And then over time, we're going to continue to work this process until we're doing this on all of our projects. So, you know, it can be, let's start with one project and let's move it all the way through the system and see what happens.
Yeah, I think what we've seen over the years is when you see construction teams really pull together, and you've got the executive leadership team all the way down to the person who may be doing the most difficult tasks on the job site. Everyone is on board, and everybody understands that they're on a mission to create something that makes the organization better, that makes the business better, and helps everybody to be more successful. So that leadership really makes a difference in the onboarding process. Yes,
and having somebody at the company that's going to help be responsible for the success of the implementation. I would say that's key as well. You know, as we're onboarding people as Red Team, we know what success looks like. We know the implementation process, and we know the training that is needed. We know how to help you through that process of learning the software. But it does take some time for our clients to have dedicated people that are making sure that people are getting to the training sessions, and to make sure that these new processes are being upheld on the client side as well. And so that is what we see represented by companies that have the most success in adopting technology. So yes, great point. All right, well, let's, Mike, anything else on that?
No, not on that. We did have a couple more topics on our recommended, but I think we might be pushing time.
Oh, True, we probably are too. So, well, let's talk about some of the other keys, maybe to kind of round out our discussion today. Some of the other keys to success for projects are keeping our projects on budget and on schedule. And how best do we do that? Do you have some good advice, Mike, on best practices for managing the budget and keeping projects on schedule?
Well, our recommendation is always to maintain those things more or less on a real-time basis, and if you look at something like financial management and financial forecasting, oftentimes people will push that to the end of the month. And then they're struggling to remember, what they had done, 25 or 30 days prior. The platforms, as we try and make it easy to maintain those things on a real-time basis so that you're not having to tap your memory so much at the end of the month. And schedule is the same way. If you're updating your schedule more or less on a day-to-day basis, it makes it easier to capture things like, as performed. So knowing when people have done the work, I think is always helpful. One of my other favorite schedule distinctions is don't say delay. We are in Florida. But it's one of those things that my project teams would talk about something or other delaying the project, and I would always challenge them: is that a delay or is it a change? And the reality is most of the time it's a change. If your client comes and alters the scope, or there's unforeseen conditions that have to be addressed in a certain way, as you're getting direction from your client, those aren't necessarily delays; those are changes in scope. And there's really good practical reason for not attributing everything to quote unquote, just generically calling it a delay. It's because most construction contracts have what's called a no damage for delay provision. And so if you start referring to, adding additional scope to the project as some kind of a delay, you're actually building a case against yourself for obtaining maybe an adjustment in the contract price for the additional time spent actually performing and managing the work. So that's just my tidbit of advice on scheduling.
Love that. Love that.
But with that, I think we'll go ahead and move to the next phase of our presentation.
Yeah, you guys have a little bit more time. So if you did want, I'm glad that we got to touch a little bit on delays and stuff. Did you guys want to talk at all about budgets? I know that was in your topics. Anything you wanted to say on budget, since we do have a few more minutes before I have to switch.
Okay.
Yeah, well, budgets is huge, right? We all know we're not going to make any money if we go stray really far from the budget that we came up with, and we've gone through buyout. We've tried to hopefully increase our profit on what we know we intend to spend in our construction budget, and managing that budget in real time is very important as well. We know today, have I spent all the money in that cost category? Do I, yes or no? If I've spent everything that I need, maybe I've moved past a certain point in my project, and I know I don't have to go back and revisit concrete material. All my concrete is poured, and I have a little bit of material money left over in that bucket. If I know that's left over today, what am I going to do with it? And go ahead and move it in real time. Maybe it becomes profit and we go ahead and move it to profit, but maybe I've overrun somewhere else and I need to put it to another material category where I know I'm going to go over budget. And so being able to keep track of those fluctuations in our budget in real time are very important. I know today, like Mike mentioned this earlier, that it becomes really hard to remember what we did 3 weeks ago. And so if we're managing that budget on a very regular and consistent basis, daily may be unrealistic in the real world, but if we're looking at it, hopefully we're looking at it every day. I had Pasker, when it was Pasker, now it's Red Team Go, up on my screen all the time, all day long. It was up on my screen and I was looking at that. And so being able to come in and know after visiting a project's job site, if we were done or if we were completed with something, okay, I've got some budget updates that I know I can go ahead and make today, and keeping that real time look at where am I really at on my project being very important, and having the ability to do that. And so that's something that the platform helps with. And it's a best practice. it's what I like to teach when I'm teaching project managers to do this on a regular basis. Don't wait till the end of the project. You know, the executives at your company want to see what the profit is today, you know, so don't hold on to those nuggets thinking, okay, I know that I've saved a little bit of money here, but I'm not going to move it until the end of the project, just in case. You know, I think that's a lot of some of the mentality that we have is, you know, I know I'm not going to spend it, but I don't want to move it yet. I don't want to move it. And we have that hesitation of going ahead and making that change to our budget. But my encouragement and best practice for that is move it. Go ahead and show it where it needs to be shown. Move it to another cost category where we know we're going to go over budget, or go ahead and move it to profit now. We can always pull it out of profit if we have a budget overrun somewhere and put it in that bucket later. But if we're going to use it and we're going to forecast and we're going to keep that in real time, we've got to move it today. And so those are my words of wisdom on that, and keeping your budget up to date in real time. But Mike, you're the accounting budgeting guru. What golden nuggets do you have there?
You know, I've spoken to contractors at times, and they'll sometimes think of budget and financial management as the domain of the finance team. But at the end of the day, candidly, we expect our project managers to control the money and manage the money. And so you know, by giving them the right tools to see things like where they are in real time, whether you're over or under billed on the job, how much capital you have tied up in that particular project. I think those are squarely in the domain of project management. And you know, we expect as a company that the project management team is managing and delivering the gross profit that is expected from those projects. And so you really can't separate the finance and accounting from the operations management, because the two things have to be working in complete synchronization to be successful.
Okay.
Well, I definitely brought that up because, of course, I have ulterior motives, and in our demo, after our demo today, I'm going to be showing you guys a little preview of the updated budget worksheet. So I appreciate you guys taking a few extra minutes to talk a little bit about budget. That was helpful. It helps me segue into mine. I am going to switch over to the presentation, but before we do, we did have a couple questions come in. I think we could probably split those between you guys. I'll ask Tracy this one. We had somebody ask, do you include scope notes when you send out a invitation to bid?
100% always. Yes. You know, in the bid invitations through the platform, if we've included the scope of work notes, they get sent out with the bid invitations, and they've got access to the plan room right there as well. You know, when they receive their bid invitation and click on the link that takes them into the plan room, they've got their bid form there where they're going to be able to see everything that you've invited them to bid on, along with your scope of work notes. And then they've got access on the left-hand side menu to look at the contract documents, because I can tell you this, my number one note on every single cost code is bid per the plans and specifications. Even if I have a scope of work note, my first note is bid per the plans and specifications. You know, as I would pull out the plans and start highlighting what was important and what was popping off the page at me that I knew I needed to remember to include in my bid, I'm making those things bid notes, but they can't just bid on my bid notes. Their responsibility themselves is to also read the contract documents. And so my first note is bid per plans and specifications. But yes, those do go out with bid invitations. I 100% would say to have that already built into your project before we send out bid invitations. But I know that's not always the case all the time, but that's the beauty of a cloud management software is even if I go in and I send out the bid invitation, but after I send out my bid invitations, I go in and I put in the scope of work, probably by the time that the sub clicks on the link to get in there, the note will already be there. So it updates in real time because we are a cloud-based software platform that if I do send out the invitation first and then go put my scope in, it automatically updates the bid invitation with my scope note. So, but yes, to answer your question in a very long-winded way.
Love it. No, that was exactly how we should answer it. I agree. Perfect. And then one other one before we switch over. I think this is a good Mike question. And this is more of a company question. How many project companies has Red Team bought in order to be the system we offer now? And what programs or platforms are we looking to purchase soon?
Oh, so we have acquired the FieldLens platform, and that was about 2.5 years ago. And then, of course, we know Tracy because we acquired the what was known then as Pasker. And this platform does have a lot of similarities to the Red Team Flex. The Go platform and the Flex platform have a lot of similarities. The Go platform is something that is perfect for contractors that are onboarding onto their first platform. The Flex platform is really designed for that mid to small enterprise contractor that needs, if you need 4 or 5 or 50 different forms of subcontract agreement, that type of extensibility and configuration is something that the Flex platform offers. But it's not necessarily ideal for a contractor who's onboarding to a platform for the first time. With regard to the future, we actually don't have any specific plans to acquire any additional platform software or point solutions for that matter. But I can't rule it out. Certainly, as the market changes and as our clients' needs change and expand, we're certainly open to that.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to bring the slides back up. I'll let you guys kind of finish up your summary, and then I'll do my demo.
Right. So we've talked about a lot of things this morning or afternoon already for some of us, but just defining your processes being so important and making sure that they're repeatable. Documentation is key. Building your scope of work and executing against the contract documents is a best practice. Managing your schedule in real time and avoiding overspending are all ways that are going to help you bid successfully and then for your project to run successfully. And so we're going to take a look at some of the steps with Jennifer on the Go platform and how you can make Go fit into your current experience as a construction company and how you can gain some efficiencies with the help of technology.
Great. Perfect. Well, thank you guys. Give me just a second. I'm going to get everything we need pulled up here. So, all right. Okay, switching over to the actual Go platform. So many of you guys on this call are going to be familiar with this. Some of you maybe not. So I am going to be going through these quickly. Just a reminder that everybody's getting a copy of this presentation later, and that if you want to learn more, we're going to have some info about that at the end as well. But as far as the demo, we, of course, you guys heard Tracy and Mike talking about all this stuff today, the importance of documentation, budget, schedule delays. We have so many features in Go, but in order to kind of condense that to fit with the topics for today, we're just going to try to pick a few areas and show you how Go helps you with project management in, kind of alongside all those topics that were mentioned. So I picked out a handful of tools. Some of these things are high level, but some of these are really very much day-to-day items. And I want to start with some of the most critical documentation as we talked about, which is commitments. We're going to talk about subcontracts actually first. So I'm going to actually quickly kind of start here with the award subs page. I am in a job that's already in progress, but for those of you who aren't aware, award subcontractors is a place where automatically we're seeing all of our original cost items that came from our original bid worksheet. And from here, we can update our amounts, our award amounts, and we, of course, can go in and select our subs to award these to. This is a whole place that we can start the process of awarding these to build our subcontracts. And then right from here, from this screen, I, of course, can go right into seeing all my subcontracts on this job so far. So quickly I can navigate here. I can see very fast, all of my subcontractors. I can see the status of my signatures, right? Of course, for both the sub and myself as the GC. From here, I can see other important information, things like retainage, relevant dates that I might want to see quickly. And Tracy, of course, talked earlier about, the importance of having a strong scope of work and, being able to build that. So, of course, we're going to have some default language right in our subcontracts, and we're going to give you the ability to build out and make that subcontract really strong with a detailed scope of work, all of the information that you need to share with the sub. So this is, of course, really important. Now, a question came in, of course, that kind of fits right along with this topic, and that was, can you electronically sign these? Can your subs electronically sign subcontracts? The answer is yes, of course, that they can. So I do have the ability to send these out for signature and have those subs electronically sign them. You can see on some of those ones that we have in here, probably you can scroll down and see where we have that verified signature in here. So we do have the ability to send those out electronically signed, and then we're capturing all that information right here and go. So I don't have to be, following up all the time. I can come right to this page and see what the status is at any given time. And then the last thing that I want to mention in here is, of course, a really powerful report, which is, of course, our job cost statement. So this comprehensive job cost statement shows us all that important financial data for the project. Like we talked about earlier, it's real time. So we're not waiting for accounting teams to compile this, report, send it out to us. And by the time I get it, it's already redundant. This is all live. So real time, I'm seeing all of the data that I need here for the project. Tracy, maybe you could tell us a little bit about, how our contractors could best utilize the job cost statement.
Oh my gosh, I love this report. So, when my company that I worked for at the time was the first company to ever sign a service agreement with Pasker at the time. And so we didn't have this report. And so we built it to cover all the things that I wish we would have had. And so this becomes really a snapshot for project managers to see where we are today on the budget. So we'll start soon, typically, when we move a project forward from pending is where we get an owner contract signature. And then once we get an owner contract signature, we move it into We'll Start Soon. And We'll Start Soon is typically where we go through the buyout process, which we do probably before we award subcontractors. If we don't do it before we award subcontractors, we don't have to do it in We'll Start Soon, but if we do project buyout, primarily in We'll Start Soon right now, before we move it to in progress, that's where it locks in the budgeted amount that we see right here on the job cost statement. So the budgeted amount is my buyout amount where I left the project when it was in We'll Start Soon and moved it to in progress. And so the budgeted amount isn't what I bid to my owner, it's what I bought it out for if I bought it out. If I don't go through the buyout process and I just skip We'll Start Soon and move the project right from what I presented to the owner into in progress, the budgeted amount will be what I presented to my owner. And then if I go through buyout, the buyout is going to be in the approved changes column that we see here. But, my best practice was that in We'll Start Soon, I'm going through the buyout process before I move the project forward, because I know, I was estimator and project manager in one. And so I knew how I estimated it and where I put my padding, and I wanted to go ahead and drop that money where I needed it and go through the buyout process in the We'll Start Soon status. And so that's where we get the budgeted amount column that's right here. And then the approved changes happen if I am making internal change orders and moving around money in my construction budget internally, or through a sub change order. And the sub change order is a part of the owner change order, but my owner change order information is going up in the revenue section. What's coming down here below the gray heading bar is what I intend to spend. And so this gives me a really nice way to look at my projected total costs. The total cost committed is if I've locked and executed a subcontract agreement, if I've approved a purchase order, if I've approved expenses, those come into my total cost committed. And then I see my balance to commit off of my projected cost. If I have $20,000 left to spend in a particular line item, I want to know that versus how much have I been billed. And so we've added some columns into this report over the last couple of months. So the total cost committed is a new one, as is the balance to commit. And then as we start to accrue expenses and execute purchase orders and we get sub bills in approved, those pull into our total cost to date. So we're going to be able to see how much our subcontractors have billed us over in the percent of cost billed. And then up top on the revenue section, that's how much I've billed my owner. And I can see, okay, this is what it's showing me that I have been billed down below. I want to make sure that I am also passing those costs on to my owner and I'm billing for those and I'm not upside down in what I'm billing my owner for. And so the two do work together, and we've added some really cool features into the owner billing portion where upon approving and accepting sub bills and expenses, those push right into our owner bill as well. So it becomes a really powerful automated motion and makes a really nice report and a snapshot of where I am today on my project budget as I'm moving money in real time.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you for the extensive explanation, Tracy. That's great. You might have kind of answered this, but because it came in as a question, I'm just going to ask it explicitly. But the question was about, would you recommend doing the buyout before you award subs?
Yeah, we can do it in two different places. There is a spot if you're still in the bidding process and you're an estimator project manager like me in one, I may know in the bidding process that I'm gonna include this number in my budget for the owner, but I know I'm really going to award it out for less than that. We do have a buyout tab in the bidding process, but we'll start soon. That's the whole purpose of We'll Start Soon, is to go through the buyout process. And so it was my best practice. It was the reason that we created the We'll Start Soon category, was to have it be the place where we go in and we set up our construction budget. So I do, as a best practice, recommend going through the buyout process before we start issuing contracts. But it depends on your type of project. My projects were primarily stipulated sum. Some of them were cost plus, but most of them were stipulated sum with a guaranteed max. And so, I could go ahead and go through the buyout process. So it just depends on the kind of projects that you're working. If you're doing a cost plus project, you're probably going to skip We'll Start Soon and move it right to in progress. And then you're transparent on your changes and how you're moving money around in the process. So some of them are a little different. Your unique scenarios may dictate whether you want to bypass We'll Start Soon and go ahead and move to in progress. But if you like me, were working on primarily stipulated sum projects, then yes, I would say stopping and We'll Start Soon to go through the buyout process is the best practice.
Perfect. There is one that came in that actually kind of fits right along with that, Tracy. So if you were to do buyout and We'll Start Soon, then what happens to the schedule values on the owner bill?
Nothing. They don't see our construction buyout. With the owner bill is prepared with the values that we presented when the project was sitting in bidding, and we created the proposal package and we set the owner's contract value. That information is what feeds the schedule of values on the owner bill. The internal changes that we're making to move around the money in our construction budget, they don't ever see that. So unless you give them an owner change order and change what you presented back in the bidding process, their schedule of value is going to be exactly what we presented in our proposal and what's included in the contract.
Perfect. Awesome. And then I'm going to answer one of the other questions that kind of came in as I kind of fly through a little bit of this demo, because I want to make sure I can get to the preview of the budget as well. But one of the quick questions that came in was asking about QuickBooks. Could you integrate QuickBooks with the program to update costs? So we do have a QuickBooks integration. In fact, if you wanted to learn more about integrations, for the sake of time in today's call, you can go to our website. We have a place specifically for all of our integrations, and you can check out what other integrations we have as well if you're interested. But just moving back really quick to the demo, this kind of next section I wanted to go over was changes. Just very quickly, just going to go into our change orders. We heard earlier all about how change orders are just part of the job. And if we navigate over here to change orders here, we can see quickly all of our owner, sub only, and internal change orders all in one place. So, thinking about the earlier comments, we don't have to remember all those promises. We can document them here, manage all the changes here. And it's just one nice place to be able to see all that detail. I don't have a ton of time to go into all the details of change orders, but rest assured you have all of the tools you need to manage them here. The other thing I wanted to cover kind of in this section is on the billing side. Specifically on the billing side, I wanted to talk about how the approval of cost commitments will actually auto-populate your owner bill. And so this could be, keep in mind, this could be a purchase order, this could be a sub bill, it could be a timesheet. These are all things that when approved, they would actually populate here into the owner billing. And so, I was hoping to have a little time to create one, but I could just quickly show examples of, if I go into, for instance, my purchase orders, and I have some different POs here against some of my cost codes, cost items already in the job. And if I just kind of quickly go back to billing, here is where we're going to be able to create all those bills, of course, those AIA G702 bills from here. But when I actually go in and create a new bill, then I can see that those cost items we were just talking about are going to populate in our WIP column here. And what will actually happen is in the case of items that I have already approved but not yet associated with this bill, I'm going to get pop-ups when I come in here that'll tell me, hey, you've got these unaccounted for, there it is, items that need to be applied in here. Sometimes those things can't be applied automatically because we don't have enough money in the schedule of values to be able to apply them. That's kind of the warning that we're getting. So a lot of the taking the guesswork out of, you know, did we bill for these cost items? You know, those things are going to be associated automatically, which is a great feature. We're just trying to make these processes repeatable, easy, simple, and that's the idea here. All right. Okay, going then into my kind of final topic before I'm going to talk about the new budget, is kind of the day-to-day things, schedules. We talked about schedule delays. We talked about all of those kind of tracking of those changes that happen. And so if we go down here to our daily activity, right, we've got our logs and our schedules. We can start really quick here in schedules and see where we've built out a schedule in here. We've got all these different tasks. And what's nice about all these tasks in my schedule is that these are as well linked, you know, with my daily logs. I can see this information as part of my daily logs. In fact, if I just kind of jump up to daily logs, a couple of things. For example, I come right into daily logs and I can see quickly that there's a pending schedule change request, right? So right from here, I can go in and, you know, it's waiting for me to approve. Maybe it's the PM, and I can go see what proposed changes that were made to this schedule right from here before I even start my daily logs. Kind of going back into daily logs as well. We were to just create a quick one here, and I'm going to go to a date where I know I've got tasks on my schedule. What we'll see as part of the daily log is all of those scheduled tasks, anything that's going on during this date that I'm doing my daily log. I can see that, and right from here, I can update that status. So, you know, if I know that one of these items is going to be complete on a certain date, or we've actually finished it, we're finished as of today, I can make those changes right from the daily log. We're now updating the schedule. So again, taking that guesswork out of it, making it simple. All right. And that's going to be it there. Let me just double check if I have some questions on those, and then I would be able to switch over and show you guys new budgets. So nothing right now that's kind of specific to these items. So I have enough time. I'm going to show you guys now. I'm really excited about this part, which is to show you guys our updated budget worksheet. So I'm going to preface this by saying that this is not live for many of you yet. In fact, we have a few companies who are already looking at this updated budget worksheet, already using it, but it is not live just yet for everyone. Now, if you are on this call, you are a Go user, current Go user, and you're looking at this and this looks awesome to you and you would love to start using this as soon as possible, please reach out to us. Actually, we would love to consider you for one of those earlier batches, earlier adopters of this budget worksheet to start using it early. But like I said, you won't see this in your site today, but you could see it in this preview that I'm showing here now. So what we're looking at right now is the updated budget worksheet. This is a budget that's currently in unlocked status right now. So you can see that at this stage, the job is actually in progress, but because the budget is unlocked, I can adjust those budgeted numbers, change those from what my original bid amount was. And what's going to happen is that after I lock this budget, any adjustments to that are going to be tracked. We're going to track all of that detail in what we're calling the adjustments log, which I could show you as well. We can actually go to really quick here, a locked budget, and just see the difference. All right, here we go. And now what you'll notice is that I can go in, I can start clicking on budget items, and I can actually adjust several items at once. So Tracy talked a lot earlier about those budget changes, being able to track those, and you'll be able to do that right from here. You don't need to do internal change orders to change these amounts anymore. You can simply click these numbers and adjust the budgets right from this screen. There's a few other changes that are happening here, right, with this updated budget worksheet. So for instance, we are eliminating the "will start soon" phase. Once you have this active for your site, you will no longer need to go through that "will start soon" phase. It will actually be able to be promoted, and then you'll start working directly with the budget from there. And again, once we do this upgrade, if your site gets the upgrade, this will only affect your new projects. So just something to keep in mind. But then, of course, we have all these additional columns, so basically the columns are here and intended to show you kind of how your budget worksheet has changed, since your bidding estimate. And again, like I said earlier, internal changes are, you don't have to do that anymore. You could do that here. You also can do your award subs from here, right? So we now have that option directly here. The idea was consolidating a lot of different places that we could do different things into one budget worksheet, a nice upgraded budget worksheet. It's fast. It has all the detail that you need right from here. We now have forecasting capabilities if you want to turn on forecasting. So a really great enhancement to this budget. One that I know there's been plenty of users who've requested some of these features. We are really excited about them. Like I said, it is going to be something that we are rolling out over the next couple of months. So just keep an eye out. We will be sending communication about that upgrade. We won't just turn it on. So you will be hearing from us before we actually do get it ready for your site. But like I said, if you are interested in it early, we'd be more than happy to hear from you. Tracy, anything that you would like to add about the new budget worksheet? Anything in particular?
Just that we're super excited. This has been a method in the making for a long time in helping us to actually work to eliminate the will start soon and be able to do the budget awarding of subcontractors and change orders, internal change orders in particular, all on the same screen and helping to minimize clicks and just basically laying a foundation of some other changes that we're planning in the roadmap coming up. And so we hope that you like this. It's going to be such a big benefit to being able to see everything on one screen. And we're just super excited to get to share this with everybody as it rolls out over the next coming weeks.
All right, perfect. Awesome. Okay, yeah, then I think that's it. And we don't have any other major questions here. So yeah, I'll open back up. It's kind of our last part here. And I think it goes back to Mike.
Yeah, so something we say over and over again is built by contractors, built for contractors by contractors. And as I mentioned in our introduction, we do think of that as a real distinctive aspect of doing business with us. Quite frankly, the way modern software platforms are constructed, they are to some degree always in a state of flux as they're always evolving and growing. And so the key as you think about, how you're partnering with a technology vendor such as Red Team, I think it's important to be comfortable that they understand your business and that they understand your values and they have the same appreciation for the challenges that we face day in and day out. And it's I can tell you it's a very rewarding process to see contractors on board onto a platform and start to see results. And Tracy, I know that's something that you've spoken quite a bit about, particularly in motivating our internal teams and really getting them pumped up and focused on helping our clients be more successful.
Yeah, I think it's a very unique position that we have where we've done the work, we've been project managers, and so we understand what it feels like in the core of who we are to be a company that's adopting technology and changing processes. And so I think one of the things for me that keeps me coming back every day is knowing how much the software impacts your day-to-day life and gives you guys better days, gives you more time back in your day. And so I think for me, one of the rewarding things in getting to help oversee clients going through an implementation process is watching the light bulbs go off and really understanding how the benefits of using technology and applying those to your company are going to change your processes for the better and help you gain efficiencies internally. And watching those light bulbs go off and hearing from our clients and, oh my goodness, I can't believe that we waited so long to do this. We should have done this years ago. And just seeing the impact and having contractors tell us that, using your software changed our business and we were able to double in size, or because you had standard processes, I was able to start my own company and already have the processes built in, and it made my life so much easier stepping out on my own. And so, hearing those things and the impact that technology makes for you guys is what keeps us wanting to make this platform better and better. And so we want to thank you for being valued clients of ours. If you're not a client yet, we hope you become one soon. And we can't wait to see you in the implementation side. All right.
All right, fantastic. I think we still have some time for Q&A.
Yeah, barely. We have a couple of minutes and let's see if we did get anything in here. Now there's one more. I'll just kind of read it off in case anybody on this call, I mentioned this kind of earlier, but in case anybody here is not currently a Red Team Go user, but you are interested, there's a QR code right here. You guys are familiar with these days. You can open your camera, scan that and get some more information to learn more about becoming a user if you're interested.
Yeah.
And then, yes, actually, I'll leave the code up because, yeah, let's see. I don't know that we got any more questions. I answered one just now as we were waiting. So, and it was about the new budget, which was asking about, do you need to lock the budget before you start doing change orders and billing? And yes, the answer is yes, that will be something you'll need to do. But, you know, something nice about that locking is you can lock the budget if you have not started doing a lot of stuff, you know, issuing commitments and writing, doing bills, processing bills, all of that. You will still be able to unlock even though you're in progress. But yes, in order to then start using the other features like changes and billing, you will need to lock the budget. That is true.
Yeah. So same motions that you're used to, the trigger points have just changed location. So
Exactly. That's exactly.
Good question. Good question. We're going to do lots of training for that when we're ready to start rolling it out. So we're going to do a webinar. We're going to make sure that you guys have all the documentation. We'll have videos in our knowledge base. We'll have the written step-by-step instructions with screenshots, and we're going to try and do a slower rollout than just you guys waking up and it being different the next morning. So please stay tuned for that. We are going to do a slow rollout and do it with groups of companies at a time. So more to come on that we'll be sharing in the coming weeks as we wrap up the build that we have on this new module.
Exactly right. All right. And we're right at time. So I think we made it.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for, again, taking a bit out of your day to join us and to listen to our stories and to talk to you a little bit about technology and how our platform serves the construction industry. We hope that it was helpful for you today. If you guys think of any questions that you have following the webinar, please don't hesitate to send them in to us. You can send them in to concierge@redteam.com, and we'll make sure to get those answered as well, along with the questions that you've submitted today. And we'll be sending the recording out and posting that live for you guys shortly following the webinar. So thank you very much. We hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.